Well, hello, I'm Sarah Holbrooke, and I'm the lucky interviewer of the mayor, Sean Murphy. How the heck are you?
I'm well, Sarah. How are you?
Yeah, good. So it's January already.
It is January.
It's the end of January
It's
already.
finally feeling like winter.
I know. There's finally some snow out there.
We had a tiny bit of snow this morning.
I know,
yeah.
that was exciting. Hey, so what's gone on since I saw you last? We saw each other at the end of the year, and you were kind of catching me up on everything that had kind of transpired over the course of the year, and that was a really good summary and update. But now that we're into
Since
2018, all sorts of things have changed.
I think the headline since then is it's all about housing.
It's all about housing,
So-
yeah. I see that you can start to apply for the housing.
The lottery for Virginia Plaster.
Virginia Plaster,
yes.
yeah. So let's talk
So
about that.
That's inching closer to reality,
Yeah.
and we're very excited about that prospect.
Yeah,
And
so how many rooms, how many
46
dwellings?
room boarding house, 12 two-bedroom apartments, 6 studios, and 3 tiny houses.
And those are all for rent. None
They're
of them
all
are to
for
buy.
rent, exactly.
Okay, and the lottery is opening it up soonish or something. And when will they be? When are you going to be allowed to live there? When will they be ready?
We think that the boarding house, or I'm sorry, the 12 two-bedroom apartments and the 6 studios should be available in May. And we think the boarding house will be available in June.
Okay, got it.
So,
Yeah.
but we want to make sure we do an off-season or a lottery this winter, so that before off-season hits, people go
Oh,
away.
right,
We
so
want
that they
everybody
don't
to
come
have an
back and go,
opportunity to-
I missed
Exactly.
it.
So
Yeah.
that the Telluride Housing Authority Subcommittee is still working out like the fine details as to what's the minimum length of a lease, for
sure.
example. And so there's been discussion, well, is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be 4 months? But it'll be definitely less than 12.
Okay,
So, and
yeah.
probably 6 would be my guess.
Sure,
But-
for any of the rentals. Yeah, exactly.
So we're optimistic that we'll be oversubscribed in the lottery, and therefore we'll be able to fill the project from day one,
Yeah.
from whenever the doors of the relevant phase open. But yeah, by the middle of next year, we'll have probably 100 people living out there,
That's
which
crazy.
will be tremendous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just drove by there this morning actually for a meeting. I was going over to Public Works, and it was great to see those 3 tiny homes taking shape.
Yeah.
And they're tinier than I would have thought.
Yeah.
But I think they're 284 square feet each. Wow. So
That's crazy. That is
that's
small.
a challenge.
Yeah,
but
people like them.
I think they'll be the coolest
Yeah.
units on the whole the whole property.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I'm sorry, when will the tiny houses be ready?
they'll probably be ready, I would say, June as well.
Yeah, so by the middle of this year.
By the middle of this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people
you're
will
right.
be
I know,
living
I keep
there.
thinking
Yeah, I know. We're in 2018. Isn't that crazy?
And to your point, we're almost through January, which
I
is
know,
crazy too.
I
So
know. I've finally gotten used to writing 18 when I'm signing things now. When I'm dating things, it's for a long time. I still thought it was 17. 17 doesn't hold any hold over me.
That's
I'm ready
Virginia
for
Plaster.
18. Yeah.
Last week we had another HARC meeting concerning the Lot B, the RV lot.
Yes, and I
the
saw
16
story polls over there, I guess,
Yes.
last week. That was exciting.
That
so
was
you
in
can
order
imagine where it's going
to
to be.
basically engage the community and
Yeah.
get people to turn out, which did happen this week.
Yeah.
And we had results from the HARC meeting that basically said, hey guys, we want you to break it up a bit more. We want you to shift it a little away from Mahoney to
okay.
give a little bit more pedestrian breathing space. And so actually this morning there was another Telluride Housing Authority Subcommittee meeting that was taking account of those comments and those
Yeah.
conditions that HARC was asking for last week. And we are already in the planning and redesigning phase. So we're moving quickly on that one.
Wow, that's amazing. And then story polls will go up again, and we'll take another look at what it could be
When
like.
it gets
That'll be different.
repositioned,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Hate to have to bear that expense twice, but yes.
Oh, yeah. But it's so
But
helpful. I mean,
next
when you
month's
see
HARC
them,
meeting, you'll
Yeah.
see third week in February.
Yeah.
Turn out, and you'll see the latest
Third week in February,
the new
okay, yeah.
revised iteration of that project.
Yeah, because as you know, I'm the executive director of the Pinhead Institute, and our offices are at 300 South Mahoney in the Cimarron building. And so I knew that there was going to be housing there, but until I saw the story polls, I didn't really understand where. And then once you see them, you can kind of understand, oh yeah, this could be a house or
Well, and it'll
a
actually
series of
do a
housing.
little bit of double duty because it'll screen kind of an ugly open parking lot as well.
Yeah.
So, and we've been as mindful and as conservative as possible in terms of not taking up parking.
Yeah.
So while we're providing 2 parking spaces per unit within those dwellings, within
Yeah.
the footprint, we're also not taking away more than about 20 spaces from the lot. So
And
currently there are like
80 or
80,
something.
mid-80s,
Yeah.
and we should be 60 plus at the end of this thing. So
Yeah, exactly.
that'll be the right balance between parking and creating more housing for
Yeah.
probably 50 more people on that site.
And that site will be housing you can buy or housing you can rent?
It will be, in all likelihood, housing you can buy.
Okay.
So they'll be deed restricted, and most of those units will be 3 bedrooms, so they'll be a little larger.
Family size.
Family size. And of course, the way that our housing authority pricing methodology is set, that's actually cheaper per square foot than a 2-bedroom would be, for example. Because we want to try to subsidize and help larger family sizes.
Yeah.
And not just do it at some sort of abstract rate that just ratchets up the cost as you go up. We sort of push the per square foot cost down as you go up in terms of square footage. So anyway,
And-
it'll be really neat to see that take shape. And
Yeah, so you're saying the third week in February is the next Turq meeting?
yes.
Okay.
So they'll be on the agenda for that, and this is, of course, the preliminary approval, and then there's a second final approval phase.
Yeah.
But this is basically just to get the entire massing right and to get the placement of the buildings right, because there'll be 1, 2, 3 different building structures with some breathing space in between each one as well. And we want to provide for proper pedestrian circulation and landscaping so it doesn't look like it's this monolith that's just growing up out of the ground. Because
Yeah.
obviously the sensitivity to being right next to the Pearl property and to having the valley floor off to the west, it really dictates that we don't mess this up.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty prominent there.
So,
Yeah.
but it should be, again, one of the, I mean, have you been out lately to the Virginia Plaster? I mean, that thing
No,
looks
not
like
lately. No, is it gorgeous?
really beautiful.
Yeah, I remember when they
it
first
does
started
not
building
look like affordable housing, which was exactly the plan.
Yeah.
And a lot of credit belongs to Charles Cuniff Architects and to Jim Kehoe, our local architect from that team, who's done a tremendous job of creating this really high quality material sort of product that public architecture does not have to be bland or bad.
Yeah.
And so I think Virginia Plaster is going to be an excellent example of that. We're also sort of struggling right now, back to Virginia Plaster, with figuring out what's the profile and the job description for whoever's going to be the manager of the boarding house.
Oh, right.
And we're actually
Is it going to have
tapping.
to wash a lot of dishes, I worry about
Not necessarily, no. I mean,
Uh-huh.
individual residents are supposed to be able to be, self-washing their own dishes.
Yeah.
But the idea is that the boarding house manager that we create or that we hire is going to create more of a social atmosphere and an atmosphere of engagement.
Scrabble
where-
nights, things like that.
So we're
fun.
hopeful that that person, for example, might have 2 hours of office hours in the morning, 2 hours of office hours in the evening, and then maybe do an hour or 2 of administrative work at Shandoka for the greater good there.
Yeah.
But also that person's going to be involved with programming events and trying to make sure that the group has a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah.
we're going to put this out nationally for the advertising for this post. Actually, Geneva Shawnette has sort of a link into a group of a co-housing group that has a lot of these sort of, for lack of a better word, experienced RAs who might be interested in applying for and moving to the job.
Right.
But this will be a town of Telluride position. It'll be a full-time position.
Funded by the town of Telluride.
Funded by the town of Telluride. So
Wow.
year in, year out, we'll be paying somebody a salary, and we'll also be giving them that housing at no cost to their apartment, their 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Will be at no cost for the basically on-site hours that they're going to do after hours and
Yeah.
the availability they'll have to all the residents. So
Wow.
I think it'll be a unique position for a unique kind of person,
Yep.
but we're going to have a really interesting and much more vibrant sort of social scene because of it.
Yeah.
So stay tuned and we'll see.
Wow, that's so
But-
interesting. I don't think I was aware of that, like, kind of RA position. I think
Well,
that's
we
great.
were going into the project
Yeah.
like a year and a half ago. There were thoughts about, gosh, we don't want an unruly boarding house. We don't want some sort of, mayhem going on.
Yeah.
So we really needed to have an on-site manager, and we wanted that on-site manager to really be part of the community and actually to be kind of like your, the senior in college that was your RA when you were a freshman.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the idea is somebody not too far removed in age from probably the average younger demographic that will live there, but somebody who's fun and responsible.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that sounds great. I love the idea.
yeah, it should be interesting. And then we're still waiting on final pricing for the AHA School / Town of Telluride
Oh,
Affordable
right.
Housing Joint Venture Project across
Yeah.
from Baked in Telluride at
Yeah.
the Four Corners. So we're hoping that, maybe in a week's time or so, we'll have some hard figures from the bidders. and we can hopefully move forward with that project starting in April.
And how many units is that supposed to have?
That will have 10 units of affordable housing.
Wow.
And those two are most likely to be for sale. So
Wow.
a sweet little penthouse at the Four Corners.
Yeah, right?
At like, 1/6 of the cost of what's going on across the street or a catty corner.
Right.
I think that'll be pretty compelling and attractive
nice
for a lot
for
of
the
people.
community, for sure.
I'd
And that'll
like to
be a
live there.
lottery again. Yeah, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No,
you never have to worry about running out of half and half in the morning for your coffee.
or maybe even being late.
Yeah,
If you're right there in the
Yeah,
middle of everything, you only have to walk
exactly.
3 blocks for any given task or meeting. Yeah.
Exactly. Imagine
No, it should be
that.
good.
And that'll be a lottery, you were saying.
That too,
Yeah.
is expected to be lottery. I have a feeling the demand for all these projects is going to dictate that we absolutely have to do lotteries because that's the only fair way to make sure that we accommodate all the interest.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
And then the next thing on the Commissioner Cooper and I were just talking last week about we need to figure out a time later on this spring where the town and the county can start sitting down and doing some master planning and discussion of design build teams for the Sunnyside project.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Now, is that the part where right now if you're driving out, you see just like a road to nowhere? Is that the Sunnyside
No,
project?
actually, you go just beyond Eider Creek and
Okay.
look to your right.
Okay.
And there's basically a vacant parcel there with a little bit of on the toe of the slope or whatever, that it's a little flatter up there.
Okay.
And so that'll be it. So it's to the west of Eider Creek,
Okay,
same side of
got
the
it.
street.
Okay, got it. And that's also going to be affordable housing, but it's
Yes.
county?
It's a joint venture between the county and the town. The town will build the housing, and the county will contribute the land, so to speak.
Oh, my goodness.
And then we will sell those units off, presumably, to
Again, affordable
qualified
housing.
buyers. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And we're
Wow.
hoping to get about 20 units in out there. The county did 3 or 4 different versions of planning, and they were trying to go for 22, 24 units, and it didn't look like when you had to provide parking on site and everything else that you were really going to be able to do that. So we'll probably have to kick it down to something
20 is still pretty
20
substantial.
tops. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
exactly. That's
yeah.
probably 2 people per household. That's
Yeah.
another 40 people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So those are the sort of concrete housing things. The abstract housing story that happened last week at the town council meeting was that the town council considered and adopted certain proposed recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding affordable housing mitigation fees. So this is kind of a yawn.
Okay, we were talking about that earlier. Yeah,
okay.
think of a way to summarize it so that it doesn't take too much of our steam
So-
away, because we've been having a really powerful conversation so far. I don't want to
okay.
get dragged
All
down
right.
by the details.
We could skip that if you want.
No, but we were talking about it, and I know
So
it's something
think
that's
of it
very
this way:
interesting.
if you're going to build a house on
Yes.
a vacant piece of property, or if you're going to do an addition to your existing home,
Yes.
so it's basically new square footage that's coming into the marketplace.
Yeah.
The analysis or the theory is for that new build or for that addition, you're actually creating the need for 1 or more employees to take care of your house, whether it's your gardener, whether it's your housekeeper, whether it's somebody to paint your house or to
Yeah.
do your maintenance, your caretakers. So the idea that people much smarter than I have come up with is you do this like abstract mathematical calculation, you come out with a number that says 0.7 employees per a number of square feet.
Got
And
it.
so what we do then is take that and then we multiply that by a per square footage amount, and then we tell the homeowner or the project developer,
Yeah.
okay, that's nice.
You can make this house or
you either
make
have
this
to make
addition.
a payment to the town in the amount of X to represent the cost of that employee's
Okay.
housing, or you can build housing for that employee. And so what we did, what the majority of town council decided was that the rates that existed for that methodology
Yeah,
already
that
existed.
equation,
That equation was already out there. It's just that the variables that you put into there were a lot lower than what P&Z recommended that we adopt.
Right.
And so that is actually a function of the fact that these variables were set in 2009.
When
and we're
things
clearly
cost
a little
different.
beyond
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And we were
exactly.
in a recession and
Yeah.
the world was very different.
Sure.
Now that we're in sort of a boom phase again, and we have even less housing than we did in 2009, the idea and the hope is that let's go ahead and adjust these fees upward toward a more market reality base. And then we'll go ahead and whatever those fees end up being, they'll go into the Affordable Housing Fund.
Right.
The easiest way to put it is that in the last 3 years, let's say, on average, we have tended to collect like around $100,000 in our Affordable Housing Fund from these fees. The council
Per year
decided per
or-
year.
Okay, 100,000 is not
Doesn't
very
sound like a
much.
lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my good friends, the majority of our council decided to take that and multiply it by a factor of 8 or 9.
Okay, so then it
there
could be
should
almost $1 million a year
could
for
be
affordable
an $800,000 or
housing.
$900,000
Yeah.
revenue stream versus 100.
Yeah.
So we flipped these 5 levers, plus we took a square footage per square foot amount, put them in the sausage grinder, and what comes out the other end is 9 times as much as what it used to be.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens. I
yeah.
mean, some people argued that this would be a disincentive. People who owned vacant lots wouldn't be building houses anytime soon. Or we did hear from a number of locals that said, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. I've finally been able to scrape enough money together to buy my dream lot out in Sunset Ridge, for example,
Right.
which is on the spur there. And I don't have room to build an employee dwelling unit, and I paid, let's say, $250 for my lot, and I'm going to be able to build my home at maybe $300 a square foot. Maybe it's a 1,500 square foot home, but you just increased my cost of construction by $60,000, let's say. And so we want to be mindful of that. So we directed the town attorney to go ahead and draft some language that we will visit probably next month or the month thereafter to try to grant an exemption for people who are actually locals building their own housing, that they're going to live in.
Right, exactly.
So that's the balance that we hope that we will strike. At the moment, it doesn't look very balanced because those people are kind of potentially under a regime that's going to cost them a lot more money.
Yeah.
There'll be a second reading of this ordinance at the February 6th Town Council meeting. So if people have strong opinions about it, it is not too late. We did agree to go ahead and adopt this on first reading, but it takes a second reading, so that it's not set in stone. It's
I'm
just-
so glad
it's
that you
wet concrete
yes,
right now.
Exactly. Let's carve
So,
our initials in it.
we're
Sean.
done. Yeah. Put your hand in that and you're done.
Exactly. No, but that's interesting. I'm glad that that's moving forward, and we'll see how it can work out with the the different shades that you're talking about.
And then the third element of All About Housing is really the affordable housing guidelines for the town of Telluride. And that's been a process that we've been involved with for probably about 4 or 5 months now. What happens is every 2 years, we sit down as a housing authority subcommittee and say, okay, what kind of exceptions did we have to hear this last year where the rules might not be written to really help people in real life? Or what sort of, we get the municipal prosecutor in there and we say to her, what have been the problems? What have you been like, sending people notices of violation for, or in court with them? What's going on? So we try to look at what the problems are, and then we try to draft to either avoid those or to maybe make it tougher in certain cases.
Right.
So we are in the middle of probably month 4 or 5 of what's probably going to be another month or so of a public process where we've been soliciting input from people about, what do you want to see happen in terms of if you got your house, for example, through a lottery, right now you're allowed to pick the buyer of your house when and if you ever choose to sell. But if
okay.
you originally got yours through a lottery, should it not go back into a lottery?
Into the lottery, right,
And so,
exactly.
as you might imagine, we have had a fair amount of public comment about that. The other thing that really is a pressure point that is not by any means resolved is the idea of whether your physical presence is required in Telluride to do the job you're doing. So let's say, and this is basically pointed up by a number of examples where there are people who own deed restricted housing right now, and they have businesses that maybe have no need for them to be in the town of Telluride physically.
Right.
But they are. They
Right.
choose to live here, but they might have some sort of a catalog fulfillment business where they're bringing things in from China and they're getting orders from all over the internet, and then they're just boxing it up and sending it out UPS every day from their apartment.
Right.
And that's their business. Well, the policy discussion that's been going on, and it's by no means decided, is that something that we want our affordable housing to be, occupied by a person who does that job, or does the person's job really need to be that the person has to show up every day at Alpine Title Company and man the desk
be
and answer the
working
phone?
there. Yeah, exactly.
So, and there's really no right answer. And then as we all find ourselves in the 21st century where we're all trying to do these more knowledge-based jobs and maybe we're telecommuting and things, what happens to those kind of people?
Yeah.
And so people need to show up. There's a public meeting on February 20th at 5:30, from 5:30 to 7:30, to talk about that, among other items.
Wow.
So what we'll be doing is circulating kind of a topical list in advance of that meeting. Like, here's the 10 things that we're thinking about changing in the guidelines, subject matter areas, and, get yourself, if you have an opinion, please
Yeah.
get yourself to that February 20th meeting and give us your viewpoint,
Yeah.
because that matters.
Yeah. And has somebody brought that up? Is that why you guys are considering it, or is that also just something that comes up every 2 years that you need to deal with?
I think the example of, let's say, the home-based internet
Yeah.
fulfillment or goods fulfillment
Yeah.
business is really because Delaney Young on town council used to work for the Regional Housing Authority.
Right.
These are cases that she saw in real life,
Oh,
and I think
interesting.
we
So
elevated
she's-
her to be
yeah.
our chairperson of the subcommittee.
Right.
And this is kind of her ballywick.
Yeah, so she's trying to get out in front of it before it becomes a problem or
Right.
becomes an issue. Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
interesting.
But of course,
Yeah.
you know, you're potentially upsetting somebody's expectations. You're potentially messing with people's lives. So
Yeah.
I find it personally pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's why we need people to speak up about this so that we can
Yeah.
find a direction and find a way that's like not harmful to too many people, or really strikes the right balance and helps the greatest number of people,
Yeah.
and does the least amount of damage to others. So.
Right, so everybody feels they're in it together. Yeah,
But-
good luck
so
with
that's
that.
the third thing. So
Yeah.
it's all about housing. Those are your three
Yeah,
areas. It's
yeah.
the bricks and mortar stuff that you're seeing coming out of the ground or soon coming out of the ground. It's the whole theoretical, abstraction of these kind of guidelines, and then there's these fees that are somehow applied to certain people, and that the planning department goes and applies.
Yeah.
So all of them are parts of the effort.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but we're moving in the right direction.
they're
it
not
looks
always
like.
black and white.
Yeah,
So-
right. Very complicated. And now let's talk a little bit about revenues. What's been going on with the sales tax and what's been going on with the real estate transfer tax?
So our sales tax numbers for all of 2017 will be finalized next week.
Okay.
But all indications are that we are between 4 and 5%.
Okay.
It could actually be greater. I hate to raise expectations
Yeah.
and then disappoint, but anecdotally, what I was hearing is that over the holiday season, more people were choosing to stay in town and shop and dine rather than go play on the mountain for
Okay. Yeah.
reasons that we could all maybe guess.
Yeah.
And so we feel like that and anecdotally from merchants that I've talked to and restaurateurs that I've talked to, that their businesses were better than they were last holiday season.
Wow.
So I'm guessing that our sales tax revenue might be just a little up.
Yeah.
But the latest figures we had through November, our sales tax amount was up about 4.5%. So I'm hoping that we maybe go up to 9.
Wow.
The big story and it's been this way pretty consistently throughout all of 2017, is that our real estate transfer tax revenues, they finished the year up 28%.
Wow.
So whereas last year we collected about $4.6 million, I'm sorry, 2 years ago we collected $4.6 million. Last year we collected a little north of $6 million.
Wow.
So
And that goes to capital
that
improvements,
goes to the
right?
capital improvements, but
Yeah.
as I was reminded recently, and this was another one of those boring arcane things during our last town council meeting, but we had to do an end-of-year budget adjustment, and part of that was, oh gosh, we collected over $1 million or $1.5 million more of real estate transfer tax. Well, as we all know, our community decided more than a decade ago to take all of our unencumbered revenues, which would be sales tax, real estate transfer tax, business license fees, and take 20% of those and devote them to open space. So
Oh, right, so
ding, ding,
you
ding,
have more
suddenly
money
we
to
have another
yeah.
$300,000 to put into the open space fund
Yeah,
that
that's
we didn't
great.
count on.
Yeah.
So we have, let's say, 1.3 of that surplus that went into the capital fund,
Yeah.
and the remaining 3 that went into the open space fund.
Yeah.
So-
Now, do you have to go out and look for open space? I mean, where is there open space to be purchased, right?
There are things that
Yeah.
we're actually always considering buying. I mean, there are mining claims that are up
Oh,
on
yes, of
hillsides. There
course.
are other opportunities that we could enhance some open space. We can take that money and use it to maintain, but we can also improve. I mean, frankly, this seems a little excessive, but it would be nice to have those ugly power lines buried one day that go through the valley floor.
Oh, sure. And that would be
That's
open space. Yeah, absolutely.
At this point, we really, the other thing we're looking at is we've got another 8 years before we can actually prepay the mortgage on the valley floor, let's say. So as
okay.
you recall, we had to borrow about $24 million back 10 years ago in 2007. Now we're at a outstanding principal balance of about $17 million, and we're not allowed to prepay any of that for another 8 years.
Okay.
But if we started saving up these surpluses, let's say, and we had a whack of cash in 2027, we could probably take and pay off that debt early.
Yeah.
So
Or you could buy some electric buses for the bus fleet.
we can't use the open space money for that.
Not the open space money, the rest of the million
but
plus and
this
surplus.
other, yes, well, that's capital, so.
Yeah,
That's
exactly, right?
You're right,
Hello,
it went into that
hello.
fund. Look at you, she's always working that angle.
Always thinking.
Well,
We got to get green fast, man. I mean,
Well-
climate change is real.
you're right,
Yeah.
look, we're living it now.
I
A
know.
No snow winter.
I know, and now
I
it's going
didn't
to
say
be a
that,
really
but-
dry summer, you know, it's worrisome. Anyhow,
That
I'm
means
always
no fireworks,
thinking.
so we don't like that idea. No,
I
that's
know.
bad.
I know,
Yeah.
I do like the
Ugh.
fireworks. So what else is new? What else do you want to talk about? What else haven't I asked you?
You know, like I said, it's really to date this year, 2018, the first 4 weeks of the month
Yeah.
have really all been about housing.
Yeah.
Regional transit front. We are, SMART did have a board meeting last week.
Yes, and I took the bus
You
from
attended?
Lawson. I attended
Awesome.
the meeting, but I took the bus from Lawson. It was so easy. It's every half hour now. It's
great.
crazy.
Every half hour until 10 p.m.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
it so easy. Yeah,
No,
I love
that's
that.
that's
It's a
what
huge
government's supposed to
change.
do is
Yes.
increase your quality of life.
Very exciting.
And
yeah.
get you to get out of your car.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
And so now we're talking about, apparently it's very difficult to bring things onto school buses. Basically, it's against the law, it's against safety regulations. So now we're trying to work on having a chase vehicle take the skis or the musical instruments.
So a chase goose
Yeah.
or a
Yeah, exactly.
Chase Smart
a Chase
thing?
whatever,
Yeah.
maybe a Chase Tesla X or something like that.
Ooh,
I know.
I'm sure you get a lot of takers for driving
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, exactly. But to, so that the kids can get on the bus and then there's only one vehicle that takes the extra stuff rather than every child getting in a car with their parent, with their musical instrument or their skis. So that's kind of exciting and new.
No, completely. That's definitely something that, and I hope SMART is able to help with that. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that Galloping Goose, we have our own sort of
Yeah.
defined mission,
Yeah.
and that often involves going to other schools and
Yeah.
other communities and whatnot, and that's a little bit out of the bailiwick of the Goose. But certainly SMART could be of help with that, I would think. too,
Yeah, yeah.
When it gets its cool fleet of electric vehicles.
Let's
So.
hope. Very excited about that. Well, Sean,
Well, what's
that's-
on your mind? Is there
Yeah,
anything going on
yeah.
with Pinhead? Is there anything
Yeah,
going
well,
on with...
I'm up to my neck and my new interns. Thank you for asking. We interviewed 64 kids and we accepted 30 kids into the program. So now we're finding them all sorts of places all around the country, including like shark research in California. And
Do you know Judy Cohen's sister is a shark scientist?
no,
So
I'm
if
so
you
glad
didn't
you
already
mentioned
know that.
I am so glad
Sorry
you
for
mentioned
ratting her
that.
out,
Yeah, that's
but,
amazing. I'm going to call her as soon
I
as
met
we
her over the
finish
holidays.
this.
I don't believe she lives
Yeah.
here, but Judy obviously does, but her
Yeah.
sister doesn't.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
hard
met
to
her
research
sister
sharks from here, I would
at
think.
two
Yeah.
functions, and
Yeah.
yes, so
Oh,
tap into
yeah,
that network.
I will definitely, but that's what it's all about. It's finding people who know somebody who does something, and it's great. I met 2 scientists from the Jet Propulsion Lab last week, and going to try to work on solidifying those relationships. Yeah,
Is
it's
that
very
lab out in
exciting.
California?
Yeah, that's the one in Pasadena,
Okay.
same town as I think Caltech. Anyhow, lots of smart people. Actually, one was a planetary scientist, and one was a systems engineer. So very exciting people.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and our kids are always interested in space and do a lot in that area, so I'm excited about that. And then the Carbon Neutral Coalition is going gangbusters, and we're paying attention everywhere we can to try to kind of green our footprint here, and so that's always exciting.
Well, that should be one of
yeah.
the stories of 2018 because, as you know, Town Council is working through, and we'll get there, having a broader community discussion about how the community reduces its carbon footprint. And so not just housing, but now maybe second quarter of 2000,
Yes.
or maybe the last remaining part of the first quarter, we can focus a little bit more of our energy there too.
Yes.
No pun intended.
Yeah, but a lot of it is about energy too. We got to get greener energy too. Yeah. Well, no,
Well-
that's it. Lots to pay attention to. I'm so
Okay.
happy we had a chance to talk, and I can't wait till we catch up again next time.
I'm looking forward to it already.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Sarah.
Thank you, Sean.
Pleasure as always. Thank you.